Greetings, weary travelers, and welcome to The Keep. My name is Lindsey the Keeper, and while most patrons have their own personal goals they want their subordinates to complete, mine just wants me to tell cringy horror tales from r/RPG horror stories with the help of my assistant, Tao. So I'm not sure about anyone else, but I was taught at a very young age that when you're being a guest in someone's house, you have to be respectful to the hosts and their home. Whether you are just visiting, having dinner with them, or spending the night, you have to have respect to the host's home and try to have certain control on your urges. Of course, not everyone learned or was raised on these social norms. In today's tale, OP has written not one, but 3 stories about a couple who, let's just say, their lack of manners, common sense, and social cues are quite outstanding in the worst ways possible. Although the first story is more about one of the couples, trust me, it's still bad. Now, sit back, relax, and cuddle up to your favorite tendril as we dive in on these stories. Enjoy! These stories are written by user Captain Chucky with the first short story titled, DM has been lore dumping us for 90 minutes straight. He's still going. I'm not against a 5-minute lore dumping for some context, but this is f***ing exhausting. The Skype call started more than 90 minutes ago. He told us the entirety of his homebrew world creation myth, the fractions that fought in ancient wars, where every deity and race comes from, everything. I like world building myself. I run a game with Homebrew World, but I would never lore dump like this. This is ridiculous. This is making me want to call the game off. He's not a stranger, otherwise I would have left 10 minutes in. But he's a friend's husband, and I'm sure if I say something, it would be considered me starting in our group. He's now going over every homebrew race and subrace, their abilities, their skills, their traits, their culture, and how they get along with other races. 90 minutes. I could have watched a movie in the meantime. Edit 1. It's from his novel. Now it makes sense. I'm not gonna play with this guy. Edit 2. 2 hours. It's been 2 hours total. I still have no idea how the game is actually played, and I'm not gonna remember that many gods named... What are these names? Did he just throw, like, Scrabble words all over the place and just jumble up together? Nah, these guys are getting nicknames. And I'm not gonna remember that many gods named Raph, who has a brother named Rafa, and a second cousin once removed your tongue. Just 2 useless hours. At least it's over now. End of story. I understand that lore in homebrew worlds is highly important, but normally that takes place during exploration and the roleplay aspects of the game. You don't want to overwhelm your players at the very beginning of the game like this guy did. A few of my DM friends, usually on their gameplay style, will give the information during a scene or perhaps upon arrival of a new area, enough to let players know where they are at or what they stumbled upon, and yet mysterious enough to grab hold of the players to see if they will take the plunge, even giving us a chance to roll the dice to see what we could learn more about the area if it's high enough. But to be perfectly honest, if you are trying to build a new system and make lore out of it, I highly suggest making it like a Google Docs or something similar to it. That way, during their free time, the players can study a bit about the game system and the lore of the world. This is user Captain Chucky's second story with the title, The Worst Guess Ever. It's what my character would do. A ruined weekend, and an update on the 2-hour-long lore dump. You're in for a treat. I bring you both an update to my previous post here, and a new fresh story including that guy, his wife, and how they made me think that inviting a couple of meth heads would have been better than these two players. People involved: me, who is the DM of the story, the Lord Dump Guy, who I will call Turdkin, Turdkin's wife, CCL, or Crazy Cat Lady. No, I am not calling her either of that. She will be dubbed Catty. Anywho, my girlfriend, my friend and our 5th edition DM, John, and another friend, Jane. The update. I talked to Turdkin and told him that what he'd done, lore dumping for 2 hours in the most dry, uninspired, and boring way imaginable, was unacceptable, disrespectful of my time, and completely unnecessary. He doubled down. After a brief discussion, I ended up telling him that I disagreed with whatever the that introduction to his system was, and that it had completely killed any interest I had in playing his game. We left it at that. The new story. Our group had planned a weekend at my house where we would watch the extended versions of Lord of the Rings, and I would run our first ever game of Pathfinder 2nd edition. We were all excited. Turdkin insisted on running his shitty homebrew system we still knew nothing about. John, who had suffered the lore dump with me, was hesitant. I told Turdkin that if the group was okay with playing his system, I would spend the day studying while they play. My girlfriend said no. Bless her. Turdkin dropped it as the only one excited to play his game was Catty. I help everyone with their character sheets. Catty half-assed it and ignores me for 2 weeks while I ask her to fix the things she picked wrong, spells and equipment. Turdkin makes a ruffian rogue. His own words. The day before the game, on Friday, I picked John and Jane up, and Turdkin and Catty go silent all day until my girlfriend asks them if they are okay. They leave their house 6 hours after they said they would. They arrive at my place, and since Catty was pregnant, I let them sleep at the main bedroom, my room. John sleeps at the second bedroom, Jane sleeps on my couch, and my girlfriend and I sleep at my mother's house, who lives a few minutes away. That is to say, I'm treating them well, in my opinion. The next day, the game starts. Throughout the game, Turdkin's character is uncooperative, selfish, and endangering the rest of the party. He's close to being thrown in prison for disrespecting a member of the town's council and admitting, in front of her, that he broke into the house of another NPC. He completely ignores his backstory and the hook I gave him to tie it to the Adventure Path story, Age of Ashes. Essentially, he's playing like a clown. Both my girlfriend and John say that they didn't really get what the hell Turdkin was aiming for, and they found his presence at the table disruptive to the game. At one point, Turdkin's character actually got both Jane's and Catty's characters drunk and attempted to get them... Well, that is something, and I don't think YouTube would like me to say that. So... attempted to get them completely undressed in the middle of the tavern. That was my first hard no. And the mood of the table changed completely. John suggested he tried to do something more innocuous, like painting mustaches on their faces or whatever. But the situation was creepy, and Jane was visibly uncomfortable. They left the next day, and I gotta say, they are the worst f***ing guests I've ever met. Now, I don't want to bore you with the paragraph after paragraph of narration. So, here's a list of every shitty thing they did while staying at my house. My girlfriend has celiac disease. Catty made the honest mistake of using a knife to spread butter on her bread and stick that knife in my girlfriend's butter, which we keep separate to avoid contamination. The not-so-honest mistake was touching every other clean plate I had in my cupboards after touching her bread, and leaving every surface covered in breadcrumbs. When John, Jane, my girlfriend and I were cooking and putting dishes in the dishwasher all weekend, Turkin didn't lift a finger. All he did was eat and drink. He downed 2 entire bottles of whiskey by himself in 2.5 days, by the way. At least he bought them, as none of us drink. Turkin has drank around 6 2-liter bottles of Coke throughout the weekend, which he proceeded to just leave wherever he happened to be at the time. Behind an armchair, at my porch, next to the fucking trash can, but apparently not inside for some reason, under the table, whatever. Turkin bought whiskey with him to my bedroom and drank in an undetermined amount of it there. Speaking of my bedroom, they f***ed on my bed. I know because both Jane and John heard them. They told my girlfriend as she was dropping them at their place. In fact, Caddy told my girlfriend in the morning after to change the bed sheets. Turkin has loudly peed with the door open in the bathroom right next to my living room where the rest of us were trying to enjoy a meal. Caddy interrupted me while I was GMing to explain some about her work to Jane. My attempts to resume the game proved unsuccessful. Table talk is inevitable, and I don't mind it, but this went on for 30 minutes, and since Jane was sitting across the table from Caddy, none of us could hear each other over her conversation. Caddy had the f***ing audacity to shush John and me the following day, as we were laughing to explain some shit about her pregnancy. Caddy has taken a BB... I'm not sure if I could say this word on YouTube, so I'm going to call it pew pew. Anyways, Caddy has taken a BB pew pew I had in some drawer and handled it in a very unsafe way, pointing it both at Jane and Turkin's faces. Turkin and Caddy have made everyone uncomfortable more than once by excessive and inappropriate PDA. Not a peck, which I would consider normal and healthy, but some groping and explicit smexy talk. Considering they f***ed on my bed, it's not surprising. My girlfriend actually told me that they've done this several times already, when we were playing at John's place, and she accompanied them to get food while I went with John and Jane. When they were leaving, Caddy took the advantage of my unwillingness to kick a pregnant woman to keep my porch door open for 10 minutes, dropping the temperature of my entire living room, it's winter and pretty cold here, to lure a stray cat into my house, despite me telling her that I know that cat and it neither wants to be inside or anyone else touching it. This is after me telling her 4 or 5 times to close the f***ing door and leave the f***ing cat alone. I do not know how people over 30 are able to be this absolutely stupid, disrespectful towards their hosts and the other guests, intrusive, careless, dirty, and overall assholes. I know that many of the horror stories here would be prevented or fixed by a simple conversation, and even though I was not interested in staying friends with them, I wrote Caddy a few hours ago that their attitudes were completely disrespectful, shameful, and disgusting. They both denied it, even though John avoids conflict at all costs and would set himself on fire rather than talk shit about someone if it isn't a big deal. Turkin and Caddy started calling me, so I blocked them both after kicking them from my group. TLDR, I invited assholes into my house and they f***ed my bed. End of story 2. Holy Eldritch tits, this is just a lot to unpack. So, let's first talk about Turkin's tantrum that no one wanted to do his homebrew system. If you're making it too complex for players to understand, along with forcing them to know everything about the world and the lore to exact little detail, you are just going to overwhelm the players to the point of frustration, which will cause the game to end before it can truly begin. Now, the real discussion. Turkin and Caddy are probably the worst guest couples I have ever read. At least top 10 out of the worst couples in general, but you get the drift. From basically almost causing serious problems for your girlfriend's serious medical condition, to leaving trash all over the house, to even f***ing on your bed, I am surprised they weren't kicked out sooner. Maybe because of Caddy's pregnancy during the story, but even then, that doesn't mean you can let them walk all over you. You are still the host, and they are your guests. Just because you want them to be comfortable at your home, doesn't mean they have the right to disregard your generous hospitality. But if you think they can't get any worse from this story, I can promise you, it truly can. The final story from user Captain Chucky with the title, The Worst Guest Ever. Last update. It's me. Again. Sadly. Last time I updated you all on Turkin, or Turduncan as some of you read, doubled down on his 2-hour lore dump and talked about him and his wife's disrespect and shamelessness when they stayed at my house. As I said then, I texted Caddy and told her that their behavior was unacceptable and kicked them out of my group. Both Turkin and Caddy went into panic mode. Called me, called John, called Jane, texted me a bunch of times, and I ended up blocking them. I didn't tell John to kick them out of his game. I made it clear that I wouldn't be joining if they were playing his campaign, but I'm not telling someone how to run their games, and I'm not big on stirring up in groups. I think it's best if everyone comes to their own conclusions. After 4 days of blissfully ignoring Turkin and Caddy, my girlfriend got a text. It was Caddy. She asked how my girlfriend was, and then did something I didn't even imagine her doing, even coming from someone who has sex on someone else's bed. She told my girlfriend, "I hope that Captain Chucky is not taking it out on you," implying that I would redirect my anger. Although at this point I wasn't angry, I was content with never knowing from them again, towards my girlfriend, mistreat her, or her in any way. This was the final nail in the coffin. I unblocked Caddy and demanded her to explain what she meant, and she lied about coming to an arrangement with my girlfriend where she, my girlfriend, will intercede with me on behalf of Caddy. I told Caddy that she has reached a new low, to delete my number and never contact me again, and never even ask about me or anything related to me again to anyone. Then I talked to John. I'm not one for talking shit behind someone's back, but if Caddy was implying to my girlfriend that I could be using her, I couldn't even imagine the kind of shit she was lying about to everyone else. I showed him screenshots of Caddy's text to my girlfriend and my own conversation with Caddy, and told him about Caddy telling my girlfriend that he and I had somehow made a plan to make fun of Turkin and accuse him of having sex at my house because we hadn't liked his lore dump. John got pretty angry too, and deleted his own group where he planned his games. He agrees with me that accusing someone of over being told to not at someone else's house is completely unacceptable, and told me that he doesn't plan on staying in contact with Caddy or Turkin. I really hope this is the last time I have to update on this whole debacle. Caddy and Turkin are blocked on every conceivable way they have of contacting me, aside from postal service, and I will be a happy man if I can live my life without ever seeing or hearing about them. TLDR. Woman who had sex on my bed implies I could be using my girlfriend out of spite. End of story. Good job on taking out the trash from your life. If you are wondering how you can ruin an entire friendship, just do what Caddy did and make an assumption in someone else's relationship and try to discriminate against them. At least that's one of the many ways of doing that. What Caddy did is what I would chalk it up as petty vindictive at best. At least she didn't try and take it too far by trying to paint a picture and involving real law enforcement into the situation. Maybe she's smart enough for that part. To be honest, the most shocking thing that you did in this entire trilogy OP was letting them sleep in your bed. I, because of one past experience, would never let someone other than me and my potential partner sleep on my bed. Period. The end. My bed is my throne, and I treasure it when I sleep because, as a warlock, sleeping is good for my already non-existence of a soul. Even naps are very nice. The giant lesson that you could take from this trilogy is the following. If you have a new game system you want to try out, make sure you make the instructions clear and easy to remember. If it is a complex game system, make it like in a Google Docs so players can look at it when they have questions. Same solution for your giant lore dump. Look, if you want to throw in lore to your players, that is totally fine. But don't just throw the giant history book at them and expect them to remember it from front to back. Also, when you are staying at someone else's home, be respectful. Just because someone welcomes you into their home and lets you be comfortable doesn't mean you get to be trashy. Finally, when things fall apart, don't try and be petty about it over your clouded view of justice. Just be an adult and move on. Hopefully, OP and his friends and girlfriend are now having better gaming sessions without two terrible players involved in it. Now that the story is finished and we are contained for now, I am going to depart. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. If you would like to give me more support, you can buy my merchandise in the description. If you have a story you would like me to tell or art you'd like me to show through this channel, send them to me by email. Until then, I will see you in the next video.